Those targets are looking beat up. Let's try and paint them. I shit you not, that was first try. Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for watching. So a few months ago, I made a video called "Why Do People Hate the 40 Smith & Wesson?" And the video did pretty well, so I thought I would expand on that and do a few more videos on this topic. So if you're new to the firearms world, or you're wondering what all the internet gun drama is about and why people debate this stuff so much, I'm gonna try to put it into perspective for you. And today, we're talking revolvers. Kind of like this one right here, or maybe even like this one. Why do revolvers get so much hate in the tactical community, and why don't police and military units use revolvers anymore? Let's talk about it. All right, so this is the Taurus 444 Ultralight 44 Magnum revolver. I guess we'll go ahead and talk about the positives first, and then we'll go into the negatives in a little bit, because honestly, I like both revolvers and semi-automatic pistols a lot. So the first benefit of a revolver, as you probably just saw in the steel, is power. You can fit some really powerful rounds in these guns because of the way that they operate. So you obviously load your rounds into the cylinder right here, and you can make these things pretty much as big as you want to fit any caliber that you want. And unless you get like a Desert Eagle or something crazy like that, typically semi-automatic pistols are not going to be able to shoot as powerful a round as the revolvers can. Another thing people really like about revolvers is how incredibly sexy they are. I mean, they're just amazing looking guns, and like the 500 Magnum that I have, for instance, is a beautiful like stainless steel gun. The design and the craftsmanship, so to speak, that goes into some of these revolvers is amazing. The Taurus is probably a bad example because these are not, you know, the highest end revolvers by any means, but they're just cool looking guns, you know, and most people agree that revolvers are definitely really sexy. They're also typically pretty heavy guns. Now, this is an exception to that because it's literally called the ultralight and it's made to be as light as it possibly can be, but usually revolvers are heavier guns, which helps to mitigate recoil and make them more comfortable to shoot. And the last thing I'll say is they're reliable. They have a good reputation for being reliable. That being said, if they do malfunction, it's usually not good. Whereas with a semi-automatic pistol, you can just rack the slide, clear the malfunction, and get back to shooting. With a revolver, it tends to be pretty catastrophic if they're not working correctly. All right, so this is the 10mm Glock 20. The reason I chose this one is because it's kind of similar to the 44 Magnum. Not quite as powerful, but for a semi-auto, the 10mm is a big, powerful gun. So now we're gonna talk about some of the negatives and kind of crap on the revolvers a little bit. So I don't know if you could tell by watching the video, but just shooting in rapid succession, striker-fired pistols and semi-automatic pistols in general are so much easier, and just I feel like they just flow so much better than a revolver. With revolvers, I typically pull the hammer back and shoot single action. You can just go double action and pull, you know, all the way through each trigger press, but they're heavy, long, unpredictable, and I'm just not a big fan of double action triggers. So that's the first thing I'll say as far as just shooting the guns, especially when you're shooting quickly. I think semi-automatics just feel a lot better, but that's personal preference, and a lot of you guys might disagree with me on that. But the main criticism that revolvers get, and you can't really argue with this, is capacity. So most revolvers, like this one, usually have a capacity of 6 rounds in the cylinder. Some of them are 5, some of them are 7, I think some of them are 8. Either way, it's typically 5 to 7 rounds that you're getting in the cylinder of a revolver, which compared to a pistol like this, you can get 15 plus 1 of 10mm in a gun that's smaller than the revolver in pretty much every way. So I'll go ahead and show you guys these. I'm gonna line up the grips, and this is another big criticism of revolvers, is the size of them. So if I line up the barrels, you can see they kind of look like they're the same length. Obviously the revolver is much thicker, even with a 10mm Glock, which is a really thick Glock. The cylinder on that revolver is, you know, almost twice as thick as the semi-automatic pistol. But if I line the grips up, you can really see just how much bigger the revolver is. So I have those grips lined up perfectly, and the revolver is bigger in every way. It's taller, much longer, just an overall bigger gun than the 10mm, and you get twice the capacity in this that you do in this. And I would say above everything else, that is the #1 criticism that people have about revolvers. They just don't hold enough rounds for how big and bulky they are. Plus, they're a pain to carry because the cylinder is so dang thick. And if you compare it to a 9mm, you can see that the difference is even bigger. Now I realize this is a 44 Magnum, which is a big jump from a 9mm, and a lot of people will say if you have one of these, you only need 1 or 2 rounds, whereas with this, you might need 15 or 20, which anyone that's watched enough shooting videos or police interactions or maybe been in gunfights in real life knows that that's just not true. Handgun calibers in general are inferior, and unless you get really good hits, they're just not very effective, no matter what caliber you choose. Those targets are looking beat up. Let's try and paint them. I shit you not, that was first try. So here's where we hit it, right there on the bottom or there in the middle. I've literally never done that before, and I couldn't do that again if I tried. Since we got it out, let's go ahead and shoot it. This is the Canik TP9 SFX. I absolutely love this gun. We broke our steel plate. Let's see if we can hit it. Last round. So while this gun's empty, I'll go ahead and show you guys one more benefit that you have with the revolver, and that's super up close and personal. So with a semi-automatic, this is empty by the way, nothing in the chamber, no magazine in the gun, but in like a self-defense scenario, if you're really up close and dirty and you have to press this into the bad guy, if it's the only option that you have, a semi-automatic, I'll go ahead and show you with my cell phone, if you just press this in, you know, less than a ½ an inch, it puts the gun out of battery and it won't fire. Now obviously you can press on the back of the slide with your other hand and shoot the gun that way, but then you have to rack the slide and eject the spent shell casing, or else it's not going to cycle. Whereas with the revolver, you can press as hard as you want and the gun will shoot and cycle reliably. So that is a point for the revolver. All right, y'all, we're getting ready to move on to the experimental part of the video, and we do have the 500 Magnum, so this is going to be good. But I think I've covered pretty much every reason why people prefer semi-autos over revolvers. Again, I like them both, but it's definitely the size and the capacity and the combination of those two things. It kind of renders them obsolete when you have guns like Glocks and, you know, 100 other semi-automatic pistols that can hold twice or even 3 times as many rounds. And with how reliable those guns are these days, the reliability argument just doesn't hold up quite like it used to. But again, I personally love revolvers. That being said, I would still use a semi-automatic pistol for concealed carry or self-defense. But to each their own, and revolvers work really well for a lot of people. All right, y'all, so we've already done ballistics testing and stuff like that with all these guns in previous videos. So today we're gonna shoot something that we've never shot before. Cast iron skillets. So I've got 5 of these things sitting on the table here. I assume this will be enough to stop most of the guns that we have. They're really thick, really heavy duty, but like I said, I've never shot these before, so I don't really know what to expect. Let's find out. Let's try the 9mm first. This is just a regular full metal jacket ball round. Well, it clearly went through one. All right, so I hope y'all can see this. It's so bright that I can't really tell, but there's the hole in the first cast iron skillet from that 9mm. It clearly blew straight through that one. And then our second one has an even bigger hole where that 9mm went through. And then it looks like the third one does not have a hole. So the 9mm went through the first 2 cast iron skillets. Oh my gosh. There's our bullet. It's as flat as a pancake. Holy crap. That's our 9mm bullet. It was just sitting right there on the cinder block. But the 9mm went through 2 cast iron skillets and stopped on the third, so we're definitely gonna blow through all 5 of these. And keep in mind, these are not the most expensive cast iron skillets. I'm sure these things vary in quality as you spend more money. All right, now we're gonna try the 44 Magnum. I don't have any penetrators or anything like that for the 44, so this is all I got. Once again, shooting it out of the Taurus ultralight 44 Magnum revolver. By the way, I went ahead and moved the second cast iron skillet up to the front since it's got the biggest hole. I want to try to avoid putting these bullets into the same hole. So 44 Magnum. So not the same hole, but pretty dang close. All right, so I put that 44 Magnum right below the first one, pretty much dead center. I just can't help but shoot bullseyes even when I'm trying not to, but you can see that it did make another hole. And then behind that one, we have our second one, and you can see very similar to the 9mm, but I believe it is the one on the bottom. And then on our third cast iron skillet, there is no hole, but it did leave a pretty good mark where the 9mm didn't. And that looks like the jacket to our bullet right there. I don't see any of the rest of it, but that's definitely the jacket. So interesting, the 44 Magnum went through 2 cast iron skillets as well, the exact same amount that the 9mm went through. I gotta be honest, that surprised me. So we've definitely proven that one of the main advantages of revolvers is the ability to shoot ridiculously powerful calibers. So next up, we have the big daddy of them all. This is the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum, and we're gonna shoot an interesting round for this one. So this is the 390 grain spire point, and that tip is as sharp as a nail. So I think it should help it penetrate. My prediction is it's gonna blow through all 5 of those cast iron skillets. I'm gonna be honest, I hate shooting this gun. When you shoot a 500 with electronic ear pro, the world just gets quiet after that gunshot. Everything suppresses and then it slowly comes back. It's hilarious. So I obviously rearranged these skillets before I shot the 500 and put the 2 that were up front in the very back. So we had 3 fresh ones right up front. So here's skillet number 1. You can see the bullet hole from the 500 right there. Obviously blew straight through that one. Skillet number 2, once again, blew right through it, no problem. Skillet number 3, you can start to see the shrapnel that it's leaving behind. Tons of shrapnel on that 3rd skillet, but it did go through that one as well. And then skillet number 4 has the biggest hole of them all. So that hole on top was already there. That was from the 44 and the 9mm, but the one below it was not there. So that's definitely from the 500 Magnum. And again, we have a bunch of shrapnel on that one. And then interestingly enough, on skillet number 5, there is no hole from the 500 Magnum. So unless it blew straight through one of those holes that was already there, which is highly unlikely, or the bullet might have bounced out, you know, hit the 5th skillet and bounced out, it looks like it might have mostly disintegrated by the time it got to the 5th skillet, because I'm not seeing any big bullet fragments. But that surprised me. It did not go through all 5 like I thought it would. So of course, if we had the extreme penetrators out here for the 500, it would have probably blown through all 5, but I went ahead and saved that for the 10mm. So this is a 10mm Underwood Extreme Penetrator, and I think this might penetrate further than the 500 did, because these are designed to penetrate through stuff. So 10mm Extreme Penetrator. Let's see what it does. Try to put this one towards the left. So I just realized that I'm an absolute moron, and I believe that was an Extreme Defender, not an Extreme Penetrator. Whoops. But anyway, here is where it went in to our first skillet right there towards the top. I was trying to put it left, it went a little bit high. I think that gun just shoots a little bit high, and you can see on the second skillet where it blew straight through that one. And then on number 3, we have no hole. So the Extreme Defender went through 2, the same as the 9mm and the 44 Magnum, which I thought was a little weird for an Extreme Penetrator, so that makes sense. All right, we're kind of running out of room because they all have multiple holes in them, but screw it. We're gonna try the 500 Magnum Underwood Extreme Penetrator. I really want to get through all 5 of those. Let's see if we can. Man, what a cannon. Well, the last time I shot that gun, I bruised my right hand. That time, I definitely bruised my left hand. But anyway, here's where our 500 Magnum Extreme Penetrator went in. I believe it's that one right there on the very bottom. Positive it is, actually. Then you can see on skillet number 2, we got a pretty big hole right there. I don't believe all those marks were there before. It like actually dented the skillet, believe it or not. And then again on skillet number 3, big hole right there towards the bottom, and again more marks all around the hole. Haven't seen that on any of the others. And then on skillet number 4, it did not go through. You can see where it hit, and it actually split the skillet from that hole all the way down to where that bullet impacted, but we do not have a hole on the 4th skillet. So if I remember correctly, the Spire Point 500 Magnum actually went through 4, and the Extreme Penetrator only went through 3. This test makes no sense at all. All right, everybody, that is gonna do it for me today. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on why people hate revolvers. Again, I wanna reiterate, don't kill the messenger. This is not all my personal opinion. Although some of it is, I do think semi-autos are better for a lot of things like concealed carry and self-defense, mainly because of the size and capacity of revolvers. But that being said, I love revolvers. I think they're beautiful guns, and as we saw in this video, you can get incredibly powerful calibers and revolvers that you can't get in semi-autos. So if you have any questions or anything to add, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm sure I will hear all about it down there. If you like the video, please hit that like button for me, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.